Welcome back to Griffonomics, where we conduct financial investigations to define the risk before we look at the reward. Today, we're diving into the strategic investment case for North American Class I railroads, looking beyond the steel and ballast to see the engines of future structural growth.
Railroads are betting their unbreachable physical moat and revolutionary structural efficiency, like Union Pacific's sub-60% O ratio, will drive long-term structural earnings growth, justifying a premium valuation against the immediate cyclical and macro headwinds and the high-risk regulatory battle of the Union Pacific-Norfolk Southern transcontinental merger.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately. When we talk about railroads, we are talking about an infrastructure play with, well, what analysts call an ultra-wide economic moat. This is the ultimate competitive advantage because they own something that, frankly, can never be rebuilt. What makes this physical barrier so absolutely impenetrable?
It's a concept we call the insanity of replication.
Insanity of replication.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine trying to build a new interstate highway system from scratch across the country today.
Right, impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Now, magnify that challenge tenfold when you consider the sheer scale of the rail networks. I'm talking about the existing physical network of land, tracks, and bridges. These were laid down over a century ago.
Using land grants and, well, rules that just don't exist anymore.
Exactly. So if a competitor, say a massive sovereign wealth fund, decided they had infinite capital and wanted to break into the market,
They couldn't just throw money at it.
they absolutely could not. Money is only one part of the equation. You're looking at astronomical costs. I mean, conservatively, hundreds of billions of dollars just for materials. But the real blocker is the severe regulatory hurdles.
The red tape.
The red tape. Every local jurisdiction, every environmental review, it becomes politically and logistically insurmountable.
And that's the very definition of a structural advantage. So because they have this unreplicable asset, we're left with a permanent market dynamic, right?
That's it. That massive barrier to entry guarantees a permanent oligopoly in the freight market. The value isn't just in running the trains. The real value is in owning the track. So for an investor, you're buying access to something that physically cannot be duplicated.
Which guarantees pricing power over time.
Precisely.
Okay, that sounds like the perfect defense.
Yeah.
But we always have to look at the counterpoint. Railroads are still deeply cyclical businesses. They're highly exposed to manufacturing sentiment. If the economy slows down,
Their volumes dry up. Yeah, that permanent moat doesn't stop a quarterly revenue hit. That's the critical balance we have to strike. While the sector is cyclical, the downturn itself is kind of setting the stage for the next upswing.
So you're saying the bad news is already priced in a way.
To some extent, yes. We're now seeing forward-looking manufacturing surveys, think purchasing manager indices, regional Fed reports that suggest the inventory destocking cycle is ending. A growth rebound seems to be near.
Which primes the industry to capture that upturn just as their other advantages are peaking.
Exactly. And that leads us right to the heart of the modern railroad case: efficiency. Let's talk about the tectonic shift in operations known as precision scheduled railroading, or PSR.
This is the primary source of their earnings leverage, all that cost control.
Right. PSR is fundamentally changing how railroading works. It's not about running trains when they're full anymore. The goal is running a fixed, disciplined schedule, a lot like an airline, to optimize every single component.
And the gold standard metric for this is the operating ratio, the O ratio. And Union Pacific, UNP, is a company setting the pace here.
Oh, they are. UNP just delivered a number that, well, it signaled a clear competitive advantage. They achieved an industry-leading operating ratio of 59.9% in Q3 2025.
Wow, 59.9. So they breached that crucial, almost psychological sub-60% barrier.
They did. That's a performance typically reserved for the top-tier Canadian railroads.
But hold on. The pursuit of that sub-60% number through PSR has come under fire. Critics argue that cutting staff and running these incredibly long trains can increase risks, delays, or even safety incidents.
And that's a fair and necessary question. The critique of early PSR focused heavily on headcount reductions. But what we're seeing in the latest metrics is a shift from just cost-cutting toward genuine asset utilization.
How does that show up in the numbers?
Well, look at Q3 2025. Operating income grew 6%, which is strong. But operating costs only rose 1%.
Okay, so that 5% gap.
That is pure efficiency game. They're raising prices and growing volumes while holding costs stable. That gives them powerful pricing power.
And you can literally see this on the tracks. I mean, the trains now are almost impossibly long.
They are gargantuan. UNP set an all-time record for average train length of 9,700 feet in Q2 2025. For context, that's approaching 2 miles long.
2 miles. Just to visualize that, that's like lining up, what, 35 football fields end to end?
Something like that. It's phenomenal density. And the benefit is that a single train, almost 2 miles long, still only requires one crew, one set of locomotives, and one track path. It drives down the cost per ton mile.
So PSR optimizes the old physical mode. Now we have to pivot to what you call the new track gauge, which is technology and AI.
Absolutely. This is the secondary non-physical mode. The railroads are recognizing that the biggest differentiator isn't just where your track goes, but how intelligently you run the business on that track.
And BNSF Railway, owned by Berkshire Hathaway, is leading this charge.
They are. They're executing a huge strategic shift. They view AI as their new track gauge, and they want to create an optimization machine across the whole network.
And the most important application here is moving from being reactive to proactive. It's shifting from diagnostic software to prognostic software.
Predicting failures before they happen, that's the key leverage point. And to do that, they're analyzing an immense volume of real-time data. BNSF's AI algorithms are chewing through more than 35 million daily readings from wayside detectors.
35 million readings every single day. So the scale of that data processing is designed to catch these tiny microsignals of trouble, like a failing bearing on a wheel.
Precisely, long before a physical inspection would ever find it. This lets them proactively pull a rail car out of service for repair days or even weeks before a catastrophic failure could occur.
Which improves reliability, and that's what shippers crave.
It's everything.
And we have specific measurable examples of this, right? Let's look at load plan optimization.
Right, the terminals are often the choke points. AI-driven load plan optimization, or LPO, generates these complex intermodal load plans, figuring out where every single container goes on a train or in the yard in literally seconds.
It used to be a massive manual job, is now instant and perfectly optimized.
Yeah. And the other application that I find fascinating is the weather optimization.
Oh, this addresses that constant frustration of unnecessary delays during storms.
A huge driver of savings. Historically, railroads had to just shut down all trains during a generalized high wind alert. But by putting smart weather sensors directly on trains, the AI gets hyper-localized data.
So it can tell the difference between a dangerous crosswind and a safe headwind.
Exactly. This allows the railroad to safely avoid stopping 30% fewer trains during these high wind events. That's a massive reliability gain.
It turns weather from an absolute risk into a manageable variable.
Okay, so let's shift from efficiency to active revenue generation. How are railroads using all this to generate their own proprietary demand?
They realize they can't just wait for manufacturing to pick up. Union Pacific, for example, is actively managing close to 400 industrial development projects across this network.
So they're working with customers to build brand new facilities right on their rail lines.
Exactly. Instead of passively waiting for carloads, they are actively manufacturing their own future demand pipeline.
And that's not a small number. No, it has the potential to generate an estimated $1.5 billion in future annual revenue for UNP. It's a fantastic internal hedge against those cyclical dips.
Okay, so all of this, the moat, PSR, the AI, it sets up a very strong standalone case. But the real game changer, the massive catalyst hanging over the entire industry, is the proposed $85 billion merger between UNP and Norfolk Southern.
This is the primary event. This is the move to create the first seamless U.S. transcontinental railroad spanning coast to coast without needing an intermediary. And the core objective is powerful: eliminate interchange delays.
Explain that bottleneck for us. What exactly is an interchange delay?
So when freight moves from, say, UNP's network in the west to NSC's network in the east, the freight car has to be physically handed off at a major junction, like Chicago or St. Louis. That process is a massive inherent inefficiency.
How bad is it?
It often creates a 24 to 48-hour bottleneck, and it affects about 1 million carloads every year. Eliminating that handoff makes rail significantly faster and, crucially, more reliable.
And suddenly much more competitive against long-haul trucking.
That's the target. The synergy projections are colossal. They're projecting $2.75 billion in annualized synergies.
And the breakdown is interesting.
It is. This is a direct strategic attack on the trucking sector. They're projecting $1.75 billion of that synergy will come from modal conversion shaping freight that currently moves by truck onto this new seamless rail network.
Okay, let's synthesize this. The investment case is clearly bifurcated. You have this strong, defensible baseline business, and then you have this potentially transformative but high-risk catalyst.
Right. The strong standalone investment case is your safety net. Based on existing PSR operations, pricing power, and those industrial development projects, UNP is forecast to deliver high single to low double-digit EPS growth over the next few years.
Even if the merger fails.
Even if the merger fails. That growth profile, driven by asset utilization, justifies a premium valuation regardless of the M&A outcome.
But the volatility, the massive upside and the downside,
Okay.
it's all controlled by one single risk factor.
That's the regulatory review by the Surface Transportation Board, the STB. They are the governing body for U.S. rail, and they are known for being extremely cautious about consolidation.
And this isn't a quick review.
No. The review is expected to take a daunting 22 months, so this uncertainty will hang over the sector for almost 2 years. And the risk isn't just an outright denial.
It's the conditions they might impose.
Exactly. The STB could approve the deal but impose tough conditions, like granting competitor railroads access rights that could significantly erode that projected $2.75 billion in synergies. The regulatory fight is the single biggest risk factor in this whole thesis.
But if UNP successfully navigates those 22 months and the deal goes through more or less unencumbered, the upside fundamentally reshapes the entire competitive landscape.
It really does. A successful transcontinental merger would accelerate the necessity of scale. It could trigger the final consolidation endgame for the remaining Class I railroads, forcing them to find partners just to stay competitive.
So we've covered a sector defined by century-old physical moats being turbocharged by AI, enabling operational perfection, and now attempting a massive once-in-a-generation merger. If you're tracking the North American supply chain, you have to consider the ripple effect here.
And that's the thought we want to leave you with. If Union Pacific succeeds in creating the first seamless U.S. transcontinental railroad, establishing this unparalleled competitive advantage, what will be the inevitable reaction from its biggest competitor, BNSF, Berkshire Hathaway's railroad?
Right.
Will this threat force BNSF to make its own massive defensive move, another merger, a deep alliance to protect its market share? And will that trigger the true final consolidation endgame?
Risk defined, portfolio protected.